He was a gay activist in the late 90s to mid 2000s, and worked for a few like iconic queer magazines like XY and YGA, and then had a breakdown and decided that being gay is wrong and became an anti-gay Christian pastor. And I found out about the real guy because there was a profile piece written about him in the New York Times magazine in 2011. And I was just kind of blown away at how someone can go from one extreme to the next, and I wanted to understand why, so that was my interest in him and making the film.
And to what extent would you want to make a biographical film, so a film about his story, and to what extent you wanted to add something like your own opinion, your nowadays look on the society? I remember some scenes in the film where they go on this trip and make a film about the situation of LGBT people in the US, and it almost became documentary in that moment, so because you also have these interview parts in it. And was this also somehow a reflection to what Michael, the true Michael, did, or was this more your comment on something?
Oh no, there's a segment in the film where they go on a road trip and make a documentary and they interview queer youth, and that was all real. The clips of the kids being interviewed are real kids from the actual documentary. But in terms of including some of my own point of view, we really wanted to take a very balanced approach and just tell his story exactly as it happened and kind of let the viewer judge, which has been exciting because I feel like people understand and appreciate that, but then there are some gay people who see it and don't like it because they prefer the sort of they want their LGBT films to have a message at the end that's a bit more uplifting, because in mine the guy ends up marrying a woman and becoming straight. But it's obviously, myself or no one involved believes in that. It's just by telling his story and being honest with the approach, it starts a conversation about what it means to identify as anything queer, gay, Christian, Buddhist. So it's, I think people understand that the film doesn't support him, it just shows what happened and allows us to talk about it.
Would you consider it as a queer film? So as we have this question always here, so would you consider it as you just said, a film more about identity or about religion?
Yeah, I feel like it's more so it's about identity and perception and how when you don't like how other people perceive you, like the kind of extremes you'll go to change who you are. And even if it's just your style or something as minimal as your style or as extreme as your sexual orientation, which I think it's very relatable, because even thinking of something like, like what picture you put for your Facebook profile, it's the one that is how you want to be perceived. You're going to do the one that makes you look like cool, or however you want to look, or professional, or so it's just kind of like interesting to think about someone who, when he started to realize how others perceive him, he wanted to completely change his entire identity. But there's an important part in the film that, for those who haven't seen it, to kind of aid in the fact that we're not supporting what Michael did, is that he had a pretty extreme breakdown. He thought he was dying and had a fear of death, and it's kind of a common thing for people who have a brush with death to start to wonder about the afterlife. A lot of people end up finding religion because they are afraid that when they die they'll go to heaven.